Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you again for joining us for our Total Care webinar that we provide each month to our clients here. This month, we're just going to kind of focus on what's new in Google Apps. And what we've done is we've compiled a lot of the new releases that have come out, released by Google within the past 2 months. So from April 1 up to this day, there's been a number of releases in each one of the applications in the Google Apps platform, and we'd like to cover those releases with you today. Some of those are very brief, some of them have a little bit more detail, but it's always great to stay up to date on what is new in your Google Apps platform. So today this demonstration will be presented by the Dido training team. I myself am Matthew McLaughlin. I'm joined by my colleagues Brian Berchanowski and Steve Webster. They will be monitoring the questions coming in while I'm presenting. We'll be flip-flopping there. We'll each have our own little section. So thanks again for coming in, joining us today, and we'll go ahead and get started. So for those of us that are not familiar with the GoToWebinar panel that we use for these sessions here, most of us are. Just a couple quick things here. If you did want to raise your hand if you did want to ask a question during today's seminar, there are 2 different ways to do that. We find the most effective and best way to ask the question to the panelists here is to enter it into the questions panel listed here. And you can enter your question here. We'll be monitoring those questions. We'll be able to answer those directly to you. And if it's a question we feel that others probably have as well, we'll go ahead and pause the presentation and ask it verbally. Also, if you do want to ask your question verbally, you can raise your hand by simply clicking on the raise hand icon in the little panel that's to the left of the main GoToWebinar panel there. And all you have to do is simply click on that. We'll be able to see that your hand has been raised and you'll be able to ask a question. You are muted by default during this session so we can keep a clean focus here throughout the webinar with not a lot of interruptions, but please, we do encourage you to ask lots of questions. Please feel free to ask anything you want, and we will be able to answer those questions for you. Just a little refresher as to why to choose Dido and why you all have chosen Dido to be your Google Apps specialist here. Well, we deal with the product Google Apps, and as you can see below here, Google provides the product, which is the applications platform, Google Apps. Dido is the service provider, a service company that provides services such as project management, technical configuration. We provide training, communications, and change management. We also provide total care support and custom app development. So if you do need any of those pieces for your Google Apps deployment or Google Apps overall project, please let us know, and we'll be able to assist you with those areas of expertise here. We're a Google Apps authorized reseller. We were featured in the Google I/O 2011 Sandbox this year for our product called Dido Directory. It's a shared contacts tool that you can find on the Google Apps Marketplace by searching Dido Directory. And there's a lot of great YouTube videos from the I/O session that you can view. And you can also see our fearless leader, Jim McNellis, has a presentation that he was lucky enough to speak at I/O this year, and you can listen to him as well if you can find that. We'll provide you with a link to that with a follow-up email that I'll touch on in just a little while. And we're also a Google Postini Services authorized reseller, so if you need those types of services, please let us know. So when you combine the Google product with Dido services, you get the perfect solution here. So what's new in Google Apps? Well, as you can see, lots of new features in all sorts of different applications to the Google Apps platform. In the admin control panel, we're going to talk about renaming users, and there's an easy way to do that, and also delegating admin rights. We're also going to talk in the calendar, a quick cover of the color-coded events. This is a new feature which is really helpful for your personal calendar. In mail, we're going to talk about some updates to labels. We're going to talk about background send. We're going to talk about customized themes as well. In docs, there's some great releases here, uploading folders, page breaks, menu changes, and pivot tables. And in sites, we'll wrap up with sites today. We're going to talk about site recovery if the site has been deleted by accident. And there are some new fonts and styles in sites, and we'll be discussing that. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this here. And as you can see, I'm in my Google Apps inbox here, logged in as the admin at our training domain, Dido LLC. So what I want to talk about first, we're going to discuss the admin panel updates here. And the first one is the ability to rename a user's email address. And before, it used to be kind of painful to have to do this, and you had to contact your service provider, whether it was Dido or another reseller, and we would have to take those steps for you. But now it's really easy to do as an administrator, and we'll go ahead and demonstrate that for you now. So if you are an administrator on the account, you do have the option to access the admin control panel from the inbox by clicking Manage this domain. Once I click on that here, I am brought to my admin control panel, and we are all familiar with this here. What I want to do is I want to point you up to Organizations and Users here, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Orgs and Users, and that brings up all of the organizations, sub-organizations, and users that we have within our domain here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to focus in the accounting department here, and I am going to go ahead and we're going to change the name of Leah Carter. She has gotten married here, and I'm going to go ahead and select her and go to More Actions here. So once I've just selected her name right here by the checkbox, I've gone to More Actions, and I have two options here. I can delete the user, which I don't want to do that. I just want to simply rename the user. So I'm going to click on Rename the User. And this is what I want to point out to you really quickly here. Before proceeding, please note the following. These are very important pieces of information here that I think we need to review really quickly here. And once you do decide to make this change, you can review them again. But a couple of important things. Google Talk will lose all remembered chat invitations after renaming. So if somebody has sent this user a chat invitation, which they would be able to see in their chat panel if chat is enabled for the domain, they will lose those invitations because it's to their old email address. They'll have to re-invite them. The user may not be able to chat for 3 days after renaming. We have not run into that issue yet from our testing, but it is a possibility, so wanted to preface that, take note of that. The rename operation can take up to 10 minutes, so we have experienced that, so just give yourself some leeway. You may want to do this name change at the end of the day or in the very early morning so it does not affect the user's workflow throughout the day from within their inbox. And please note that a new nickname, L. Carter, and as you can see, that L. Carter is her primary email address as of right now before we change it. It will be automatically created, a nickname, L. Carter at DidoLLC.com, will be automatically created to ensure the user is continued delivery of emails. So if people are still emailing this user here, she will still continue to receive email because a nickname will be automatically set up. So that's a great way to ensure that the user still receives all email sent to that person. And please ensure that the user logs out during this process. You want to make sure that this user is not logged into their account at this time, and you are then able to make that change. So first, if you did want to make the change, you could change her first name or last name. Chances are we're going to go ahead and change the last name. She married a Mr. Johnson here, and we're going to go ahead and change this to L. Johnson. I'm going to go ahead and rename the user here by clicking Rename User. And as it's loading here, the changes to this user have been saved. You can see in the butter bar here, you can see her name has been changed, and so has this email address here, which is a really great feature. So, a lot of people get married. Lots of people want to change their name, too. So if you run into that issue, that's a great and easy, simplified way to do that. So if you have any questions about that, please let us know by entering them into the questions panel or raising your hand. Okay? Thank you very much. Next thing I want to talk about in the admin control panel is the ability to provide specific administrative rights to certain users. Now, this is very useful because, you as an administrator, you may have a large organization, a couple hundred users, 1,000 users, or even 10 users. But, a lot of the times you have other things that need to be taken care of, and you could delegate some of these actions that you take as an administrator within your admin control panel and provide those, you need to be able to provide those these rights to some of your end users so that they can take care of some of these action items that you don't really have the time for or just want to delegate out here. I see we do have a question. So would we use that rename feature when we terminate employees and want to reuse that license? That is a possibility. That's a great question. Yes. When you do rename that, you will have all of that other information, all of their email listed there within their account, and it would have to go in and require a lot of cleanup there. So you may want to think about getting another license for another user, but that is an option, so that is something to take into consideration. All right, so great question. Thank you very much. And what we're going to do is continue talking about some of the delegated admin rights that you can provide to some users in your domain. So we're going to go to the Human Resources sub-organization that we have created, and you can see we have these users listed here. And we have a few super administrators here, which these people have the overall access to the admin control panel and can pretty much do anything in here administratively. So what I'm going to do is Jimmy Lynn Simpson does not have any status here. So I want to go ahead and provide this person with some additional rights here. And I'm going to go ahead and click on her name. It brings me up to the user information, resolve settings, but more importantly, we're going to focus on privileges here. So I'm going to click on control. You can see that. Click privileges here. And this is what you can provide to these users here. General privileges. You can make them a super admin. This user has full administrative rights within the control panel. Now, this is a big step. This is basically providing this person with all rights to the admin control panel. They can delete users. They can also adjust domain settings, advanced tools, set up support, and additional service settings for email, calendar, and docs. Now, you may not want this person to have that type of rights. When you do provide somebody with this type of access to the admin control panel, you want to make sure that this is the correct candidate for this for these rights here. So you do have that option here, and you can just simply click on that. It makes them the super user. Or you can make these users have the rights to organizations and users. So they will only be able to access this information in orgs and users. This is great feature because let's say you have users coming in or changing names, and you need to make some adjustments to just user settings or creating organizations and placing users into those organizations. If you were to give this specific user these rights, this is where you're going to provide them with the rights. If you do click this button icon here, the user has full admin rights within the organizations and users. So basically, they can do everything that you can do as the high administrator to these users by clicking this box here. But if you just want to give them some rights here to organizations in general, to create organizations, you want to click Create. And then this user can delete these. Notice she cannot rename or move these groups. You can definitely provide him or her with this information or with this access as well. It is up to you as the administrator. Just note the granularity you have here when providing users this access. And again, users here, general users, you can allow this person to create, which when you create this user, it allows them to read and rename the user, obviously here, because that's the access that is provided once you're trying to create a user. Or you can have them just move or delete and not have them create users. So again, you have a lot of great options here. Below these, you don't have many granular options here, but this basically allows this person to, yes, I want this person to be able to have access to the advanced tools and domain settings, and that is it. Nothing else. I don't want them to be able to have access to the users. So when you do provide people with these settings here and you've made your choices, you want to click on Save Changes here. And the privileges have now been saved. So Jimmy Lynn Simpson will be able to then access this admin control panel from within her mailbox like we accessed it from ours by clicking on Manage this domain, because he or she has now been provided with those rights here. So a great feature if you want to kind of take some of the burden off of your shoulders when it comes to the admin control panel. You can now provide these rights to users. Okay. All right, so that was it for the admin control panel, and those are the two new updates, and I'm sure we'll be seeing lots more in the near future. So let me just demonstrate a couple things here that we have left, and before I pass it over to my colleague Brian Berchanowski. The first thing I want to show is in Calendar, and a lot of us have come off the Outlook platform, and you're able to color code calendar events. In Google, as you know, the calendar events initially were only by the color of your calendar. As you can see here, this calendar would have been red. So when I click here and want to create an event, this event is going to be the color of my calendar, admin at Dido LLC, just red here. But from 5 to 6 p.m., I'm going to go ahead and create this event. So I simply clicked on the calendar. It gave me the hour time slot. I want to add additional details. So edit event details. Here is where I can enter this event. Obviously, if I want to set the time or extend that, I can do so here. Add any of the descriptions, where the event is. But look below this. This is great. This is where you're allowed to add the event color. Now, this comes into play here in a great way because, you know, I kind of compare this to the Superstars lab within your inbox. You know, we all have some sort of a mad science to our inboxes. You know, and colors are a huge part of that. With those superstars, you know, you have a blue star, a yellow exclamation point, a red star, the yellow star, a green checkbox, you know, and each one of those things, pardon me, means something very important to you, or it allows you to stay organized a specific way. So with these calendar events here, you're allowed to go ahead and create a color for that event. So if it's an urgent event, you may want to make it a bold red color. And we'll go ahead and demonstrate what that looks like here. And as you can see, my color is more of a burgundy color, you can see here. But now this event is red. And that means this test event from 5 to 6 is urgent here. And I'm going to go back and just do one more here. So this maybe green means go. And we're going to go ahead and move forward with this specific event here. I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. And as we know, if anybody has any questions about anything within the Google Calendar, please let us know, and we can answer those for you here. But as you can see now, the color is green. So I can click other events here, you know, and it'll just stay red, and this is what your calendar looks like here. But it's great to be able to differentiate specific events on your calendar. So the color-coded calendar events is a new feature, a really nice feature. And that was it for calendar. They only had one release in the past couple months, and again, I expect to see a couple more here in the near future, and we will keep you posted on that. And the last thing I want to talk about is really, I just want to point out this feature. It's the ability to have more than 40 characters in a label. Now, this really is beneficial for users that came from Outlook. We did a certain type of migration, whether it was the Gazmo migration, Google Apps Sync for Microsoft Outlook, or a GAMI migration off of your Exchange server, or what have you. When your folder structure was migrated over, you know, you might have had a folder structure with one folder and subfolder, and then a subfolder, and then a subfolder. You know, everybody has, again, their own way of organizing their inbox. Well, this allows you the ability, before it would cut off at 40 characters, so you were limited to 40 characters. And I think a lot of people were running into issues with that, especially during their migration, and those character and the titles of their folders were not being migrated over properly, and they were hard to find. So really what this means is if you go up to your gear setting and you click on Mail Settings, you go to Labels here. If you wanted to create a new label, we just want you to note that you can have a label up to 250 characters at this time. So it's just a really nice feature. A lot of people, I personally don't have any that are that long, but some people do, and you now have the option here. So just a nice feature. We wanted to point that out to you, and you can enter up to 250 characters here. Before I pass this over to Brian Berchanowski for our next part of the presentation here, I did quickly want to run a poll if you wanted to go ahead and participate in that. And 1 second, I will go ahead and add this up here so you can view this. The question is, as an administrator, will you be granting admin rights to specific users? And we covered that just a few minutes ago. So I'm going to go ahead and click that and launch. So if you want to go ahead and just take a couple seconds to answer that question for us there. We're about 80% voted here. Thanks for your quick response. We'll keep it open for just a few more seconds here, and I'm going to go ahead and close the poll here. Thank you for your participation. And I'll go ahead and share these answers with you. And what we're seeing here is that the majority of you will not be providing access to the admin panel. And that is perfectly fine because, again, you don't want a lot of people in there tinkering around with what you have set up, which took you so long to set up there. So, again, it's a personal choice there, and if you do have the security and somebody in your organization to be able to do that, you now have the option. So thank you again for taking the time to answer that question for us. And at this time, Brian, if you want to go ahead and take the rights and touch on some things that you have, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Matt. Let me go ahead and take control. All right, so what I want to go over today are a few recent changes to Google Mail and Google Docs.
Make sure you show your
So the first thing that we're going to talk about is a lab called Background Send. We're also going to look at a lab that's recently graduated called Don't Forget Bob. We're going to look at how to customize to create a custom theme for your Google Mail interface if you have themes enabled in your domain. And we're also going to go into Docs and look at how to upload entire folders and the new Pagination feature that they have in Docs. So first let me demonstrate, let me explain this Background Send lab. So again, where you would go to enable a lab is this gear in the upper right-hand corner, and then we would proceed to Labs. And if we scroll down to the B's, we have Background Send. So the advantage of Background Send is that if you're sending a large or a complex message, it returns you to your inbox while it's sending the message. So if you're sending a message with a large attachment, it will allow you to continue working on other things while that's happening. And it's actually very hard to demonstrate because it quickly moves you back to your inbox. Let me go ahead and try it out, and we'll see if we can glimpse the butter bar at the top that says sending in background. I'm going to go ahead and send a message to Matt, copy Jeffrey. So if you notice there at the top, there was just briefly a butter bar that said sending in background. But it becomes more useful if you're sending a message with a large amount of data. So this can save you precious time during the day because you're not waiting for the message to finish sending. The next thing that I want to point out that's not a new feature, but it is newly graduated from Labs, and that is the lab called Don't Forget Bob. And what this does is it shows you, or it suggests other recipients based on the recipient you've chosen. So let me demonstrate that. If I go to Compose Mail, and I go to compose a message to Matt, it says over here, consider including Michelle. So it's recognizing that typically when I send a message to Matt, I also include Michelle, and it's suggesting that I include her as well. So this helps you, it helps you remember other individuals that you may need to copy on messages that you're sending out on a day-to-day basis. So let me return to my inbox. We're going to discard that message. And I want to show another feature that's relatively new. So let me switch to my other account. And this is actually the ability to customize your own theme for Google Mail. So many of you are probably familiar with themes as long as themes have been enabled on your domain. So if you go to Settings and you go to Themes, you can see that we have the themes, the standard themes that we can choose from that have been provided to us by Google. But we also have the ability to create our own theme now. So if we click on this, we get a new interface here, and we have the ability to customize many different features of the theme. So note that we can customize the colors of the background, we can customize text color, this highlighted color, and if we click on, say, link here, we can also add a custom background image. So if I proceed here to background image, I could make it a solid color if I like, but I can upload a photo. So if I click select, it's going to ask me to, it gives me the option to upload a new photo, or I can choose from photos that I have in a Picasa album. And when you upload a photo from your computer, it automatically adds it to this album so it remains stored here. So if I select this picture and select OK, you can see that it's giving me a preview here in the background of that desert picture, so I can continue editing this theme until I have all the colors tweaked just the way I'd like it, and then I can enable that theme so that it changes the overall appearance of my inbox. So just a nifty way to add some customization to your Google Mail, maybe brighten up your day-to-day chore of checking your mail. So now I want to move to Google Docs, and there are a couple new features in Google Docs. So let me return to my training account. And first among these is actually a very useful feature, and that is the ability to upload an entire folder at once from your hard drive. So many of you have probably had experiences. If you use Google Docs, you've had experiences uploading files to Google Docs, and if you have folders that contain large numbers of files, this can become very tedious. So what we can do is if we click on Upload here in our Google Docs interface, we now have the option to select Folder. And if we click Folder, we can select a folder. And in this case, I have a sample folder on my desktop, so I'm going to choose that one. Once I click OK, it asks me to choose my upload settings. And another relatively new feature is that it actually remembers these settings, so I'm not going to have to check or uncheck these boxes each time. So in this case, I'm going to leave these files in their original format rather than convert them to Google Docs. And so if everything's okay, then I'll click Start Upload. And we see the status here in this interface in the bottom right. So now it's telling me the upload is complete. And so note that the folder on my desktop was named sample folder, so that has now become a collection. It's automatically it's created a collection and named it with the same naming convention as my folder. And if I click on it, here are the two documents that I had in that folder. I had a PDF and a Microsoft Word document as examples. So a very convenient way to upload large numbers of files. And I do see that we have a hand raised. So Mark, let me go ahead and, oh, I see you just lowered your hand. Let me,
Mark
also have some questions.
Had entered a question. Is the size of all files and docs still limited to 1 gigabyte? And yes, and those are of all non-Google Docs. So how this has come about is that, yes, it's limited to 1 gigabyte of free storage, but you do have the ability to purchase additional storage within your Google Docs account. So if you have the need to upload more than 1 gigabyte of non-Google Docs, you have the ability to purchase additional storage. So that is available to you, and then you can then upload more than 1 gigabyte of non-Google Docs. Okay.
Thank you very much, Matt. And so before I pass the control over to my colleague Steve Webster, there's one more feature that I'd like to point out in Google Docs that's new. And it's something that is minor, but it's very comforting for those of us who are used to using other word processors, such as Microsoft Word, and that is this pagination. So if I click on the document, note that we can now see page breaks when we're composing documents in Google Docs. So this gives us an idea of what content is going to be on what page, gives us a better idea of what is going to show where when we print the document. So again, it seems like a minor change, but something that can be very comforting for those of us who were Microsoft Office users. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn the presentation over to my colleague Steve Webster. He has another feature or two in Google Docs to demonstrate, and also some things in Sites, I believe. So Steve, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Brian. And let's give it a moment to show my screen. Yes, within Google Docs, as Matt mentioned at the beginning, there were a couple minor menu changes. I just would like to highlight those next. So within spreadsheets, I have imported a little screenshot here. There is now a new data option to better reflect the recently added filtering functionality, and the forms menu is now in the tools. So it's minor changes. So for example, the form is now underneath here, and the data now has things like the pivot table report, which I'll get to in just a moment. Next, let's talk about another add-on, and that's images. We can now upload and insert images in our spreadsheets. Now, in fact, this is an image as well, where you have options and so forth, but I want to demonstrate how we do that. So let's just click a cell, and we'll click Insert, and click Image. And we have choices. We could upload it from our device. If we know the URL, we could do a Google image search or Picasso web apps. So let's do a Google search to demonstrate this. I'll type in Google Apps and press Enter. And I'll pick the first one. And it highlights it. And next I'll click the Select button. And once it's imported into the spreadsheet, I can click on it and even resize it if I like. And as before, it has the image drop-down. Editing image is just basically giving you the opportunity to reselect a new image. You can delete it. You can assign this image to a app script where it can fire off some workflow processing perhaps and reset size. So I'll clean up by deleting image. The next thing I would like to talk about is pivot tables. And I'll click on this pivot table sheet that I've prepared. My purpose for the pivot tables is to just let you know that it's new, do a quick demonstration, but it's not intended to train you from A to Z. But I will show you where to go to perhaps do your own training with where you can download a template of data to experiment with. And then from that, you'll be able to create your own pivot tables. So first, let's go ahead and look at what I've done here so far. As it was mentioned in a release, we do have now pivot tables. There were some third-party partners that have made their attempts of creating pivot tables to supplement the Google Docs spreadsheet, but now we have it here. So here I have some columns like an office supply type of thing for sales. So what I'm going to do, first I'm going to use my mouse and highlight the cells I would like to create my pivot table on. And once it's highlighted, I now go to the new Data menu and click on Pivot Table Report. Once I do that, you'll notice it doesn't overwrite the sheet, it creates a new sheet. And over here to the right, you'll now see a report editor. It has a range where it's possible to change the range here as well. But the next thing I would like to do is to go ahead and add a field to the row. So let's pick a region in this case. And for the columns, let's pick, let's say, the year. And for values, let's click on, let's say, the revenue. And as you can see, that quickly has taken the information from my source pivot table sheet, which is down here. So I'll toggle back here, okay? And I'll go back to my pivot table sheet. And we can see that in the north region, how much revenue has been generated in 2 years, for example. There is some flexibility with this report editor. You can simply drag, let's say, the group by year up to this area, to the row area, and it will redisplay itself over here. Now let's bring that back down to the columns. And we also have filtering. This is great because a lot of people like to drill down. So for example, if I see something here that's like, okay, this is a combination of perhaps printer sales and copier sales. What if I just want to drill down and concentrate on printers? Well, I can click the Add field over here at the filter, click on Business Unit, which contains that information. And when I do that, it now has all items. So if I click on that, and I want to uncheck copiers, and I just want to see the results of printer sales, I can click OK. And the West region has completely disappeared, which means there are no sales for the printers in that part of the region in my small data set. Now, of course, since I'm using a small data set, my amount is small, but imagine having perhaps 10,000 rows of information. It can be very helpful to quickly summarize your data and identify issues to be able to drill down. Let's go back to my pivot table sheet. I wanted to highlight two things to help you with your pivot table development, let's say. One, there is a blog posting available. I added a hyperlink function in my spreadsheet to help to take us there. And this is located within the official Google Enterprise blog. And it's dated May 17th in this case. And the reason why I want to bring you here, it has a nice video that takes you through, similar to what I've done. And there's some comments down here as well. Okay, let's close this. The other thing I have here is a link to the doc support. Instead of clicking on the link, let me show you how you can simply get to the same information without clicking on this little link here, for example. So if I just go to Help and click on Google Docs Help Center, and if we scroll down, we now see that within the Working with Data, they have added a nice resource here. So if I click on that, you can do your own tutorial process right here. It takes you by the hand, so to speak. And what's nice about this, on this last step, creating a sample pivot table report, that is a great way to work with the data yourself. So for example, they have a pivot table report template right here. So what I would recommend as a takeaway, one, you're aware that we now have pivot tables, and two, you can go to the Help Center and click on this template, and so you can actually play with the data, look at the video, and you should be off and running. All right, now I think we have a poll question for pivot tables, and then once we're done with the poll question, I would like to go into sites. Matt, do you have that for us?
We do. I'm going to go ahead and ask this question. It's, do you find pivot tables in Google Spreadsheets as a helpful addition to the platform? I'm going to go ahead and launch that for you here. We just take a few seconds to vote there. All right, we're about 80% voted here. Thanks for your quick participation again. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll there. Thank you all very much. And we'll go ahead and share these results. And it looks like we're 50-50 here. So I guess what we'll do is we'll figure out, maybe pull this question again in a later webinar and see how useful the feature is. I think a lot of people like it and a lot of people don't. So thanks for your honest opinion there. We really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Let's see, is my screen being shared now? You know?
Yes, it is. I see a delete site example.
Thank you. I just want to make sure.
Okay.
Okay. Within sites, we have just two items to share with you. One of which is they have added some more font styles. Now, I just want to show you where to do that. If you click Edit Page in this example of a small site, in editing, you'll notice that if you click on Normal up here, it's still restricted to a few. However, to see perhaps, I forget the number, maybe 100 or so, let me click Cancel, and I'll show you how to choose other fonts. If you click More Actions and click on Manage Site, and then we'll see underneath Site Appearance, we have colors and fonts. So let's click on that. And let's do a demonstration here. For example, we have different sections here. One is like the entire page itself, or perhaps just a site header. Let's just do one of these. Let's click on the page font here. And next, I would need to click on the custom. And this is where we have more options. So I click the down arrow. We'll now see we have plenty of options to choose from. So instead of using the editing mode to do your selection, you can come in here and make consistent fonts, which is probably better for the look and feel of any site by doing it here anyways. I'll click Cancel. And the second thing I would like to share with you is there's been a few people out there asking for the ability to recover a deleted site. There is nice revision history that we can always go back to, but what happens if we accidentally or someone else deleted a site that wasn't supposed to? It is possible to recover. Now, the first thing I want to do in this little demonstration is up here in my address bar, I want to highlight and do a Control-C to copy this URL. And I'll explain why in a moment. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through this More Actions and delete the site. And to do that, I'm going to go to Manage Site again. Click on General underneath Site Settings. And here I'm going to scroll down. And underneath Site Actions, one of the links at the very bottom is Delete this site. Now when I click on this, it has changed. Besides the normal confirmation, are you really serious about deleting this? It's now stating this site will be immediately removed from view, but you may recover it by visiting its URL within 30 days. Are you sure you want to delete this site? So the key here is URL. So let's go ahead and delete it. Site deletion is in progress. Please wait. And when it's done, it should go back to my Create New Site list. Up here at the address bar, I'm going to replace that with my Control Paste or Control V, and I should be able to press Enter. And sure enough, it's taken me through the process to restore. And I do have an option to permanently delete this. So permanently deleting simply means I'm waiving the 30-day grace period. So I'm going to restore the site, and we have it back. So the key here is to remember its URL. And that is all I have to share right now. So Matt, would you like to take us back to closing?
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, well, yeah, that's it for the presentation today on the line items that we were going to be covering here. Before we get to the Q&A, I want to go ahead and just talk about some next steps here. And really what we want you guys to focus on is where you can find what is new in Google Apps. And it's a really quick, easy link to remember, what'snew.googleapps.com. And what you'll be able to do is subscribe to the items that are released by Google that are the new releases, and you're able to get an email about that within the day or the day of it being released there, so you're able to check out all the new features. So it's a great place to see what has been released in the past, and there's a calendar that is available to you here, and I'll go ahead and actually show you that really quickly, what it looks like. And just type it in there, and this is what you will come to. You'll see the nice release calendar here for all these upcoming feature releases here, or that have been released in the month of May, and then you can slide over and you can see June here. They will go ahead and update that here shortly. They don't want to give you too much of an advance notice, kind of keep you on the edge of your seat here, but a lot of great information that you can find there. And what I wanted to talk about is what we have available for you all from Dido. You can view all of our webinars, including the one that we recorded today. It'll be posted on the YouTube channel by tomorrow, and it's youtube.com/DidoLLC. We're also available on Twitter at @DidoWeb and @DidoTrainer. We have a Facebook page, facebook.com/DidoLLC, and the Dido blog, which is great. We have a post about every day of really great tips and tricks for Google Apps. Highly recommend checking that out, blog.didoweb.com. And I'm talking every day there's a great article, a new article to read. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and open it up to the questions panel here. And there was one question that I saw that came in, and I wanted to kind of clarify this for you here. We're going to go to Docs and talking about the uploading of folders that we discussed earlier. And one of the questions came through was that the old edition allowed you to choose a folder to upload, document, or folder. Is that possible? And if I'm seeing the question correctly here, what I want to do is I want to go to the Chrome browser, because the Chrome browser is the browser that supports the folder upload here. And when I do go to upload in the upper left-hand corner here, if I click on that, I have the option to choose from files or a folder. So you can differentiate that here. So if you clicked on files, it would be any of the files that were saved onto your computer there. You can find those there. And then you search for that, or if you wanted to click a folder, again, here are the folders that are available to you within all of your documents there. So that's where I think you can see the difference there. If I didn't clarify that or answer that question, just let me know, and we can answer that for you there. So, again, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand or enter your questions into the Q&A panel, and we'll go ahead and answer that. And we'll give you just a few minutes to let those come in. If you have no questions, thanks for joining us today, and we're going to stay on the line here for just a few more moments and answer any questions that do come in. So thanks again for everybody. All right, see, we have a question here. Actually, the gentleman has left, so I think I might have answered his question there. All right, thank you very much. Okay, well, if we don't have any questions today, thanks again, everybody, for joining us. We really do appreciate your time, taking the time out of your busy day to come join us here. But it's been an absolute pleasure. And keep an eye out for the invite for next month's webinar as well. And we'll surprise you with the topic there. So, pardon me, thank you again for everything. It's a pleasure. Thank you, Brian and Steve. Great supporting cast. And we will go ahead and end today's session. Thank you very much, and have a great day.